Hello, guys. Welcome to AK Speaks. So today I want to talk about the importance of conversation. Yeah, the kind of conversation you have in your head, the kind of conversation you have with people, the kind of conversation you have with families and loved ones. They have the power to shape your life. Now, if you go to Genesis 3, you see the conversation that happened, between Eve and the serpent. You see, the serpent did all he could, to convince Eve. But one thing I realized is this: if Eve had the opportunity to go back to ask question, probably ask question from Adam or ask question from God, the entire story of the fall of man would have taken an entirely different turn. You see, but instead, Eve allowed those words to get into her. She allowed that conversation take the better part of her. You see, every day of our lives, we have conversation that shapes our lives. We have conversation that is capable of ruining our destiny or capable of shaping our destiny for the best. So I strongly believe that there's power in conversation, and there's power in asking clarity about the kind of things that we hear, or about the kind of things that plays in our minds. So instead of you entertaining some thoughts, instead of you allowing the enemy to isolate you and begin to feed you with things that are not correct, things that are not written of you, why don't you go back to God when you are confused? Why don't you go back to God and ask him, and to get clarity, and ask him about things about your life, about your destiny, instead of you allowing yourself to be boxed to a corner? I believe strongly that the questions you have, the questions on your heart, can be answered by God. I can tell you for a fact, He has answers to all of the questions of your heart. So instead of you allowing thoughts, conversations, all of those deep thoughts, to weigh you down, to change or shape on your future, why not to go back to God and say, I have these thoughts, I want to get clarity. I want to get clarity about my career, I want to get clarity about my family, I want to get clarity about my ministry, I want to get clarity about my purpose. And I'm very sure that once you can be patient enough, it's going to give you clear-cut direction, and it's going to give you things that will make you forge ahead in life. So I want to encourage you today that you should have conversation more with God. Converse with God, and He's going to show you deep things that you know not of. I pray God helps us in Jesus' name, that we begin to look for God and converse with Him as a father speaks to his son. Stay blessed.